Page 10, Ol Rockin Chair Blues. It's a blues piece. The fact that it's a blues piece tells you right there you're probably going to rock the eighth notes. And they tell you there, yeah, you're going to rock the eighth notes. We're going to play them long, short, long, short. Throughout this piece. I'd like to point out a few things. I'm going to start with the right hand. Watch the fingering. Second line, second measure, right hand, there on page 10, you have this. The melody's the top note. That's what we want to connect. So we can do the thumb on the last two. We can't connect them, but we can do it because the melody's the other note, and that's what we want. So it works out okay. That happens in several places. On the last line on page 10, you have in the first measure, at the end of the first measure, you have those 3/8 notes. Watch out on the next one because it's the third finger on the A, so you got to reach up to get the A. That's interesting. So just so you're aware of it, you got to prepare for these things, don't you know? Yeah. Top of page 11. Now this is tricky, this first two measures here. I've tried different fingerings. Nothing seems to make it any easier than what they're showing, so we'll just go with their fingering. Starting out here, then E, then you have a triplet. We're going to do a 1-3-1, then you cross over to get the B flat. I'd like to have a fingering where I don't have to cross over the thumb, but again, each fingering I tried, it makes easier on the B flat, but it makes it more difficult on something else. So I'm not gaining anything. So we'll just go with their fingering. Second line on page 11. Second measure. These notes, that's a triplet. You see the little 3 under them? So it's a 1, 2, and a 3. 1, 2. So it's a wrist. Bump, 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 bump. And for the last note, the A, F, I recommend a 1-4. So the melody's the top note, and I'm just playing the melody with the 4. There. At the end, the bottom of page 11, first measure on those 8th notes, you're down here, that's a G, A. The last 8th note, that G, that's tied over to the half note. So you're not going to play the G again, you're going to hold it down. You just play the E half note by itself. So it's here. Both notes are down. It's just you're tying the G over. Don't play the G again. No. There. Like so. Then for the fermatas, the quarter note fermatas, I'm going to hold 2 counts, and then the last measure, the fermata, the left hand has a quarter note fermata, so I'm going to hold that for 2 counts. I'm just going to hold the right hand, whatever, to come up at the same time the left hand does. And that's it for the right hand, I hope. In the left hand, you just have this passage, most of it. It moves around a little bit, but that's basically what it is. It does have a little tricky fingering there. For instance, in the second line on page 10, in the second measure of that line, you have it changed. It's not a 5-2-1, now it's a 5-1-2. You're crossing over the thumb, and the reason for that is the last note. That's a G. You got to come all the way down to prepare for that G. We do this other fingering. 1, 2, 1. That happens in a few places, so look out for that. The only other thing then would be the pedaling. Again, there's very little pedaling. I don't see any point in really showing you the pedaling. You just do it the way they're telling you. Over on page 11 in the second line, third measure, you're going to play the notes and then push the pedal down. And you're going to play the low note. That is a G, by the way, in case you didn't know. You did know, right? I hope you know. Before you play the G in the 8th note, lift the pedal up. You're going to leave this hand, you're going to leave the quarter note down for a full beat, so it's going to stay down when you play the G. You're going to lift the left hand up as you play the A, but lift the pedal up when you play the G in the right hand, so it's there. like so. The idea is we want to hear a break in the sound in the right hand, because here we want to hear that silent. At the bottom in the pedaling, you have legato pedaling there in the second measure, the last line. So you're going to push the pedal down right after you play those notes. And then you're going to lift the pedal up and put it down right after you play the last quarter note in the right hand. And then you're going to lift the pedal up right after you play the first notes in the last measure. Push the pedal down after you play the B flat. And you'll lift the pedal in the hands at the same time. And that's how I recommend you do the pedaling. Other than that, you do it any way you want. I don't care. Let's try this. This is a slow piece, but we're going to play it super slow because I want you to check your notes. So you got to be able to hear the notes. You do the dynamics once you get it all figured out, because the dynamics add a lot to the music. It's important. But for right now, I'm just going to play the notes. So my left hand is here. My right hand is here. And the foot's on the pedal ready to go. 1, 2, ready and go, and. Again, I don't know if there's any recordings of this, but I think this is sort of how I would play it. Just to give you an idea, right? Don't copy me, you do your thing, but this is how I would do it.